somebody had the title Meatcleaver Massacre. A great title, the alliteration of it, but they needed a movie to kind of attach it to. So ours was the closest one, and it became Meatcleaver Massacre. Now they're expecting a meat cleaver. So it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it brings people in, but then it gets them mad because there was no meat cleaver. I'm Doug Sr., and I played one of the student killers in the 1976 exploitation horror movie, Meatcleaver Massacre. I was in plays in college. When I moved to LA, I got an agent and started doing extra work. My first professional job was an extra in Soylent Green. We want Soylent Green. Of course, Soylent Green is the ground up people that we eat. And so that was on the MGM lot, the old MGM lot. This was the last movie they were going to do on this particular area. It was the New York Street area. And that was my first job on there. Before that, I was in plays. I was in The Drunkard. I was in that, a melodrama. I was in one called The Amorous Gourmet. You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. I was in. So I did theater around Los Angeles. I did The Stone Killer with Charles Bronson. I did some TV stuff, The Jeffersons. I got my SAG card by being an extra in The Jeffersons. By then, I had started working box offices. I was the box office manager at Pasadena Playhouse, and I was assistant box office manager at the Hollywood Bowl and the Greek Theater. I worked many of the theaters, and I didn't, acting was gone for me. And then I had met somebody who was casting extras in Frasier. I ended up being an extra in Frasier quite a bit, and then that led to Seinfeld. I was in Seinfeld a lot, the last 3 or 4 seasons, which was a lot of fun. I love that set. And then I did other ones too. Picket Fences I did. A lot of TV shows in the 90s. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That was fun. We did it at the Ambassador Hotel where Bobby Kennedy had been shot, but they hadn't knocked it down yet. They were using it for movie sets. So somebody on the set showed us exactly where Bobby Kennedy went through the kitchen to the ballroom, and we followed the area where that went. And Johnny Depp was there, and we all just followed the Bobby Kennedy path. In fact, in the Meatcleaver Massacre, I had just done a movie called Funny Lady, which is the sequel to Funny Girl, and they cut all our hair off to be in the 30s, because this was the 70s, so we all had long hair. So that week after I did it, Ray Atherton, who was the producer of Meatcleaver Massacre, said, Doug, and I'd already been cast in it. He said, we're going to start Morak's Chant. And I said, my hair is... they cut my hair. Do you still want me? And he goes, oh yeah, that's fine. Dirk, character I played, is kind of a dork. You'd be fine doing that. I start the movie with very short hair. So each time they called us back to work, because they kept running out of money, I'd grow my hair back to normal length, normal 70s length. And then they go, okay, we're going to do it. And I'd have to go get that Dirk haircut again. So I had to keep cutting my hair to this short hairstyle. So if you notice in the movie, my hair does not always match. It gets a little longer, shorter. They kept running out of money. So they kept calling us back. This went on for about 1.5 years. It was always a different title. Dr. Cantrell's Messiah, Demon of Death, Deadly Messiah was one of them. The Demon Chant was one of them. I kept having to change my resume to whatever the current one was. The Morak's Chant. I looked in the newspaper one day, and, that's when I was going to the movie. So I was seeing what movies were playing. And I noticed Meatcleaver Massacre playing with Mansion of the Doomed. I looked at it and I saw Larry Justin's name and Bob Mead's name, who were in it with me. And I go, oh, look, Larry and Bob did another movie together. The ad had a hand with the foreheads of the killers on it. And there was my head. And I go, wait a minute, this is the movie. So I went to the movie, and sure enough, I went by myself. I didn't want to take anybody because I didn't know. And like everybody else, I was waiting for the meat cleaver. I thought, well, maybe they inserted a meat cleaver somewhere in there because we kept going back and it was so disjointed in the movie making of it that who knows what they were going to be putting in this. They didn't bother to dull the knives or the razor. So when I put the razor to my wrist, I remember thinking, gosh, that's right on my vein and it is sharp. And at that point, the director was Gordon Trueblood, because the directors kept changing on this. He said, yeah, put it so it twinkles to the light so we can see it in the light. I remember thinking, one false move and I'm going to be really slitting my wrist here. The same thing with the knives. Everything was very, very sharp. I mean, I'm glad they didn't use guns, because who knows if they'd have taken the bullets out. Everything there was a very, very guerrilla filmmaking, basically. The scene where Sean dreams before he gets killed in the desert, he has this dream, and all three of us are in it. Three of the killers are in it. And my part was the cemetery, running through the mausoleum. So we go in there and there's no permits. They didn't have permits for anything on this film. So they said, okay, run through. So I was running back and forth through this mausoleum. It was echoing all over the place. Finally, after about a half an hour, they said, we got to get out of here. Somebody reported us and we're going to get in trouble. And so we had to hightail it out of the cemetery. And that's the kind of filmmaking that we were doing. I thought, are they going to have it on a rig? How are they going to lower it down on my head? They said, no, we're just going to, you turn on the engine, the fan's going to be on. They gave me fake blood to keep in my mouth, and you're going to spit out the blood in the fan and there's a cameraman under the car, and the other camera was here. And then there's two guys on either side going up and down with the hood. And there was no safety involved. And I looked at the guy and I said, I'm a little uneasy. He goes, don't you trust us? I go, well, yeah, I know you're not going to do anything on purpose. Christopher Lee didn't know he was in it. I mean, even Ed Wood didn't know. They asked Ed Wood's widow about it, and she said, Ed Wood wasn't in Meatcleaver Massacre. It's like, well, he didn't know none of us knew it was called Meatcleaver Massacre. Of course he didn't know he was in it. When it came out, nobody knew they were in it because nobody knew the title. Ray Atherton called me towards the end of the year and a half we were doing it and said, Doug, you're going to be in a movie with Christopher Lee. And I go, oh, I thought he was going to do a new movie with Christopher Lee, and I was going to be in a movie with Christopher Lee, acting with Christopher Lee. I thought, oh, wow. He goes, no. Christopher Lee's going to narrate Demon of Death, or Morak's Chant, because it wasn't Meatcleaver at that point. He kind of led on saying, well, he didn't really know that he's going to be in it. He had done it for something else that didn't sell, and Group One bought it and attached it on there and billed it as such, as starring Christopher Lee. Meatcleaver Massacre flew under the radar for years. And then finally, when IMDb came out and its Meatcleaver Massacre is in the Christopher Lee massive filmography, it started to be questioned. He was asked about it. He said, I was never in a movie called that. So he was made aware of it. But there he is in it. And it's kind of part of the lore of Meatcleaver Massacre. At that point, the word massacre, it was a golden word that the exploitation release people and producers were starting to grab onto after Texas Chainsaw Massacre. As the years went in through the 70s and 80s, of course, everything massacre it was almost a guarantee that it would sell, no matter how bad it was. Group One, which was a big releasing company at that time, they released Alligator and Mansion of the Doomed, the X-rated version of Cinderella. Somebody had the title Meatcleaver Massacre, a great title, the alliteration of it, but they needed a movie to kind of attach it to. So ours was the closest one, and it became Meatcleaver Massacre. Now it's on Tubi and a couple other ones. I never would have thought 50 years later it would even be mentioned. It was one of those movies that played in drive-ins and third bill horror movie on the 99-cent theater circuit. So it came out in 76 and it played until the early 80s on and off. I keep looking at seeing the paper because that's when I was going to the movies. And every once in a while I'd see it again. I mean, I wouldn't go see it again, but I would see it in the paper. And I would think, my gosh, that is still going on. I was a dancer and an extra in it. We did it at Producer's Studio. I forget who directed it. It was a great film. The costumes, they were all of these court costumes with tights and tunics and all of this stuff. I'm in the dancing scenes and walking around in the background and things like that. Sexploitation basically was what that was. One of the things where the teenagers go camping and they have the chaperone, who is a very uptight woman, ends up being a lesbian, and she's jealous of the boy that is the boyfriend of the main character, played by Sandy Dempsey. I was one of the kids. I played Dick. Is my name, I think, in that. They had two versions, one R-rated and one X-rated. And in the R-rated one, the girls, there was frontal nudity in it. The boys had rear nudity in it. In the X-rated one, they did what they called inserts, where they would insert close-ups of the actual, so it could play the Pussycat Theater. So it could play the Pussycat Theater in the X-rated version, or it could play the Grindhouse Theaters in the R-rated version. When I was the manager at Pasadena Playhouse, the box office manager, she did a play there called Death of a Buick. It was a very dark black comedy, but it was funny. It was not a hit because the people in Pasadena, who are very uptight and old, didn't get it. I loved this play, and I would go in and see the second half because I was still busy in the first half counting the money and stuff. So the second half I'd always go in. And Betsy would always, of course, give me her ticket orders and stuff like that. I didn't watch slasher movies. Yes, I was in Meatcleaver Massacre, but I did not watch slasher movies. I knew I'd heard of Friday the 13th, but I didn't know that she was in it. I didn't talk to her about it. She didn't mention it. All we talked about was I've Got a Secret and Queen Bee she was in. She had done the South Pacific, the tour of South Pacific. She was so fun and nice. I'd go between shows. We'd go out and have to the neighboring lunch place, but we never talked about Friday the 13th. Barbara Rush was one that I got to know very, very well, and she did It Came from Outer Space and When Worlds Collide. And Kevin McCarthy I got to know well. And one of my favorites, of course, is the Pod People one, The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So I would talk to them about those movies. Now, this was in the 80s, maybe early 90s. Barbara I knew for a while. Kevin came in and I just knew him during the run of the show. He did Give Him Hell Harry. And I talked to him about it, and he kind of looked at me like, this is the movie you want to talk to me about? Because he had done a ton of movies. He was friends with Montgomery Clift. And here I'm going, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. They all liked what they did, but I don't think any of the older stars exactly realized what it would mean to the generations that followed them. Barbara Rush wanted to talk about HUD with Paul Newman, or Robin and the Seven Hoods with the Rat Pack. I mean, she was all in on those. On the horror movies or the sci-fi movies, not that they brushed them off, but they just didn't realize that this was such an important, and it kind of went on even further than some of their more well-known movies. And Betsy was another one. She didn't mention Friday the 13th at all. We talked about everything else. Every time Frankenstein or Dracula came on, or Bride of Frankenstein, all of them, those were the ones that I watched. When I was a kid, a lot of those 1950s Red Scare, sci-fi, alien movies were being made. One of my favorites is Teenagers from Outer Space I love that one. I watched a lot of Roger Corman ones. I still do. And Bucket of Blood is hysterical. And of course, Little Shop is wonderful. But I like the sci-fi horror movies. The first one I watched as a little kid was Invaders from Mars. It's a sci-fi and horror movie. It's told from the viewpoint of the little boy. The first time I watched, I had a TV in my room, believe it or not. This was the 50s even. But I watched it by myself in my room, mesmerized, fascinated, horrified. I was 7 years old. I'd never been horrified before. And then the parents come in, Hillary Brooke, the mother, as cold as ice, going, I'll take him now. And he realizes, that's not my mother. It looks like my mother, but it's not my mother. Well, here I am, 7 years old, watching this movie. I was, like I said, horrified. And then when he goes out into the desert and he sinks down into the desert, and there's the Martians underneath the sand, and there's a big head in this glass thing that is these big eyes, it affected me. And it kind of leads me to believe that the first horror movie that anybody sees, that you see, that affects you that way, that sets you up into what kind of thing you like. Warhol's Dracula and Frankenstein, they are fantastic. And I like Die Die My Darling, which is one of that hagsploitation. It's with Tallulah Bankhead and Stephanie Powers. Rosemary's Baby I love. And I like a lot of Hammer stuff too, the Hammer movies. The colors are so vivid and the stories are so great. I kind of like psychological horror movies. Love Carnival of Souls. I think I lost my breath for a few minutes when I first saw that. It was so stunning and so unexpected. Those are the kind, like Night Tide with Dennis Hopper. That's a good one. I think it's a mermaid in that one. It Conquered the World. I just watched for the first time. That was a good one. Spirit's Cliff is a gothic horror story that I wrote several years ago. It actually took decades to write. I had the idea a long time ago. Right now it's in book form on Smashwords. What it's about is two boys go up to this cliff called Spirit's Cliff. It's a haunted cliff. It can take over a person's mind or their psyche when they're up there. So the two boys get into a fight and one of them ends up going over the cliff. The cliff takes that death as a sacrifice from the other boy. The sacrifice then awards him 30 years of good life. He comes back to town, and that 30 years has now kind of ended, and things are starting to happen in his mind. Things are happening to people around him. He finally comes to realize that this is what's happened. So he doesn't go insane. The cliff demands more sacrifices. It's a moral dilemma. And I had a problem at the end. This main character is a killer, even though he, didn't mean to be. So I found a way to satisfy how it ended. It's one now that is a screenplay written by me and my friend Dylan Dean Staley. My future, I'm retired, so I wouldn't mind doing more films. I don't know whether or not that would ever happen. Being in Palm Desert, there's nothing really going on down here. I lived in Los Angeles for the longest time. It's about an hour and a half away. So I could conceivably do something. It would be fun to do a cameo. Being on a set is a lot of fun. And I'd like to work with younger people that have these ideas and be the older one going, okay, trying it and then adding any of my shtick that I might add as an older person. Because I like the younger people. They're living in a world that's different than mine. And so I would like to experience it. I still watch on television, though, all the old stuff. I don't watch a lot of new stuff. I wouldn't mind doing another something in film. I'd like Spirit's Cliff to actualize into an actual either movie, miniseries, telefilm. I think that would be the thing that would make me the most happy at this point.